great honor to introduce our next presenter. And Donna and I just recently met.
Yes,
we're not
we
old
did.
friends, but we're fast friends. She is with St. Mary's Foundation over at SSM Health. And we wanted to talk very specifically about gala and large fundraisers that are like, we're going to raise a lot of money really fast as best we can. And she's really an expert in this. If you've attended their event, she does a phenomenal job with that. So I'm going to let you start just by telling us a little bit about you, how you landed in this line of work, because you're surrounded by people who do the things that you do and want to learn more. So I'll let you introduce yourself and then slide through a couple of them.
I am Donna from St. Mary's Foundation, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today and just give you a little bit of information on fundraising. And feel free to stop me, ask questions whenever you want to know. But truly, my first career was in practice development for providers at UW and Meriter, and I changed into fundraising because I was always on a board. I was always on the YMCA or the American Cancer Society. I was always doing board work, and I really liked to see how being on a committee and raising funds could really make change in an organization. So when I got my master's, I thought, well, I think I'm going to change and do something more in public. My master's is in public administration, so I wanted to do more to serve the public. So that's how I landed here. So my biggest thing for an event is there's so much prep work before we even get to the fundraising. You know, first it's, working at a hospital, a lot of times it's about capital campaigns, or if you're working at a smaller nonprofit, it can be about raising money for a initiative that's closer to the heart, something that we all hold near and dear to us. So right now at St. Mary's, we're raising funds for cancer care through an endowment. So we're trying to build the endowment. We can talk a little bit more about an endowment if you'd like. But we are developing a room called Hope Blooms, and this is a room that will be like a spa for our cancer patients, not only for St. Mary's, but also for Rock County and anywhere, anyone that needs wigs, any kind of support can come to this space. So when we started thinking about what it was to do this space and what kind of money we would need to do this, that's the first part of this, identifying your initiative. What are you trying to change? What are you trying to raise money for, and how will this impact your community? So that was the big thing. That's the big thing, is really identifying something to raise the money for. My last campaign I did for medical imaging, it was for radiology equipment. Much harder to fundraise for something like that than cancer, because you can really pull at those heartstrings with the cancer and get the community. Everybody's been affected by it, even though radiology equipment, people need that, but people also think, well, the hospital should be able to pay for that, right? So it's a totally different way that you change your message. So then I always start with my goal. How much are we going to need? I outline, I get quotes, I have budget. With this room, we've had to do a little renovation. The wigs are very expensive. And as a hospital provider, we cannot give these things to people because it seems as though it's an inducement. It's kind of like pharmaceutical companies used to give tickets to games and do things, and then all of a sudden you were buying their product because of the things that you got for free. So therefore, none of these things that we give to our patients, whether it's going to be makeup, prosthetics, things like that, are not going to be able to be, it has to be fundraised for. And that money has to be acknowledged and recognized in the room so people know that it was fundraised for. So I do a big campaign. This event that we're doing right now is the Bob and Mary Arndt endowment. So an endowment, you only use the money that the interest is made. So it goes in, so it's a lifelong initiative so that it will grow for years to come, and the interest off that will be able to continue to buy wigs, continue to buy all the things that are in this room. So what was the range of gift chart? let's say our goal is 100,000. We're gonna have sponsors. We're gonna have event, fundraising pieces in the event, ticket sales. We put that all in there, like how many $10,000 sponsors are we gonna get? How many $5,000 sponsors are we gonna get? I do a gift chart so that I can see feasibly how I could possibly make $100,000. So I have all that laid out, all the expenses to make the room, and then how in this fundraising, campaign, where do we need to get the money? So the next thing is developing a committee. This is probably one of your best and most important steps. So of course, Mary Arndt is on my board, foundation board. She is very well known in the community. She has lots of friends. Her husband is he used to be on my board previously. We have asked a lot of the community members to be on this committee that have influence. And I know that sounds, you want anybody and everybody, right? But you also want to have people that have influence in your community. So the biggest thing for me is, number one, are they passionate about it? Every single person on this committee has really been affected by cancer. So of course, they're very, very passionate about it. That really helps. Every one of them have lived in Janesville, Rock County for a long time. They know a lot of people. They have a lot of great connections in the community. I think the number one, if you take anything off that list that is the most important, is are they willing to fundraise? And because a lot of people don't want to fundraise. They're like, oh, I can't stand to ask people for money. It's really not hard. I always say to people, will you join me in giving a gift? And it's a lot more, it's easy when you're having more of a conversation, like you're a friend. Next thing that you know, they're like, oh, geez, I guess you want me to tell you if I'm going to give you some money. Like, yeah. So I think that is another thing. One of the things I do with developing a committee is I create a book where it literally has, we're going to talk about subcommittees, where it literally has what their role is. If you've got people on the committee that are going to be working with the caterer for the tables and the presentations, all that, that's one side. And they fundraise too. Like on this committee, they have gotten our cheese. They have gotten tons of things donated for the actual tables, the presentations, things like that. Lots of food. Farmers have come together and donated a lot of food for this event. So they fundraise as well. You have your sponsor, committee, subcommittee. And these are people that you identify in your committee that really know businesses. Do they know all the high hitters here in Janesville? And who are they? Or do they know somebody that knows somebody? And then give them all the tools that they need to be able to fundraise. They can go literally into that, organization, have marketing materials that says exactly what we're doing and exactly how we're doing it, so that they know. And so as the director, I make sure I have all those tools for them. That we have literally done marketing tools for everything, so they know exactly why. And that means having the number of cancer patients in this area. We pull all kinds of statistics, so people are very, very aware of the impact of this need. So, and this is something that we don't have in this area anymore, where people can receive wigs, and we're having educational materials. We have little iPads that they can get meditation when they're getting their infusion. We have a list of things that this room will support. So all the marketing materials that they have to bring to these organizations makes it simple. Will you please join me in supporting this? So I definitely think, number one, make sure people are aware that they need to fundraise. Everyone on the committee should have some, even if it's fundraising for the in-kind donations, but everyone should be aware that this is why they're here. So then we have the subcommittees, everybody knows. The next stage is subcommittees. Sometimes they don't necessarily want to do the talking with them. They can make an appointment and I can come with them. So we identify potential donors and we schedule meetings. So during those committee meetings, we meet every other week. We are literally making lists every time. Who can we talk to? Who haven't we talked to? How can we get into that door and make those? We right now have about 15 sponsors and we're hoping to get even more. So, but it's a constant work. It's a constant education of how we get in there, and then be prepared as the director to go with them, to be a support system to them. So, and then we start scheduling meetings. Most of them, when you get into a meeting, it goes so much smoother than what you ever think it will. And most people in most big companies are aware you're coming to ask for money. And that's the other nice thing. If they know we're coming in, they know we're gonna ask them for something. So they already pretty much have an idea of what is happening. The timeline and the venue. At that same time, I'm creating how much money I need. I'm creating how many weeks I need. There's nothing worse than to have an event where you're like, oh my gosh, we have 8 weeks and maybe your marketing department can't get the materials ready on time. Or let's say your committee can't all be together until a few weeks later. There's always things that get in the way. So make sure you have a long period of time to start. And sometimes you'll think, God, that's so far away, but it will be so beneficial if you have a ton of time. So I literally make a timeline. This is when I'm creating all the, the background information. This is where I'm creating, these are the weeks I'm creating my committee. I have a timeline of anything, and I'd be happy to share that with anyone. But your timeline is so important so that you know down to what date your save the dates are going out. What date is your invitation going out? What date are you putting all your sponsorship letters in the mail? What date are you guys following up on those sponsorships? Because sometimes I send them all out and then we follow back up. Committee's already told me who they have a relationship with. So then it's time to start. I have it all literally documented in the weeks so that we really try. And if we sway a week or two or a week forward, it's okay because I have enough time and we're not in a crisis. Make sure your marketing, especially like I work for SSM and they have a lot of hospitals, a lot of marketing going on. So I have to make sure my timelines are in accordance to theirs. They like a 6 weeks advance notice. We go back and forth for, if I don't like the invitation, we go back, we put more information, we change it. So allow for that time. So I can't say enough about timeline in your venue from the save the date to your event. And it can change. You can massage it as you go, but every committee meeting, I have that up on the screen. They all know kind of what we're looking at. Marketing campaign toolkits, make sure you have all of those things. So we start out, we get the marketing, have everything. So on the website as well, let's not forget about that. So if you looked up St. Mary's website, Mary and Bob aren't, cancer care endowment, you would pull up their whole sheet that tells exactly why they're doing this. I have those printed for committee members to take. We have the sponsorship information, the different levels. With your sponsorships, you will give certain items for them to want to be a sponsor, whether it be like a platinum is $10,000, they get a full table, 10 people at a table, and their logo is on every single thing at the event, everything. Every sponsorship gets certain advertisements, certain perks for being a sponsor. And mostly they like it because they get a lot of advertisement. They get a lot of advertisement on our website, on social media, on everything. So you have a whole marketing campaign. If you're lucky, like I am, I can ask my local marketing person, will you help me to make sure that I'm not missing any collateral materials? Because the night of the event, you're gonna need place cards, you're gonna need your in-kind donations, you're gonna need marketing for everything that was in the live auction, your silent auction. There's a lot involved in your package for marketing, a lot. And again, I would be happy to share that kind of stuff with anyone. So work on your marketing campaign and your toolkits. You can find a lot of this online too. Like what you would need to do a successful event. What are you having on your table? Like, especially for fundraising, I am an advocate for always having an envelope on the table, a pledge sheet on the table. When you do a paddle raise at the end of the night, we're gonna do stories, cancer stories, and then we'll do a paddle raise. Everything is right there. They don't have to think twice about where to find something. And then your chart of work. This is my favorite piece. My favorite piece. I use Excel, you can use Sheets, all works the same. These are all my little tabs. You know how you have the tabs on the bottom? I have all these tabs on the bottom. So I know exactly in that chart of work, I have the weeks across the top from the day of my event, and I literally have all these things in there. Who are my sponsors? Who are my in-kind donations? Who are my live auctions? Who gave silent auctions? I have everything in there. And the biggest thing I will tell you, capture as much information on that organization that gave you something. Because when you go back at the end of your event and you want to do all your thank yous or at your event, like all these, your mailing list, your all the details of the event, you want everything so your whole committee can look at everything that's needed. Now the guest list, I think I forgot to put guest list, add guest list, the chart of work. So your guest list, key, make sure you're capturing their addresses, their phone numbers, email addresses, everything you can capture. So the night of the event, whatever donor database you use and they're gonna pay for, they literally slide their card in, their credit card in. I got everything else in there. If I can grab it, if I can get it, because then they don't even have to check out at the end of the night, because you got it all. Right then, it's in there, it's done. So I cannot stress enough on every guest, company, everything. Grab all their information that you can possibly get so you can follow back up and do thank yous. Then you also have it in your database for future. You know exactly in your database what they gave you, what they donated, or what they bought. And that's helpful too as you move on to another event, to have all that work underneath that. So I can't stress enough about having as much information in your chart of work as you can get. Who was your contact for all your sponsorships? Who was the one that not only was the decision maker on the sponsorship, but then who cut you the check? You know, who was the one that you worked with in the office that helped give you all the names for their table, the members of their table? I make sure I collect as many things as I possibly can. So on the outside, on the other side, it's really put together. Chart of work is the best thing. I do share it with my committee, but I ask them not to enter anything. I've made that mistake in previous years where I've had everybody kind of getting in there, and that does not work. And then the other thing I do with my emails, because when you have a committee of 11 people, it is a ton of emails, a ton of stuff. I have folders in my emails, and I literally move my stuff. and I'm cross-checking them all the time, because you can forget so easily or something gets out of hand. Every meeting, we start the meeting with going over our charter work, so that everybody knows what's been done and what still needs to be done and what's currently going on. But the charter work will really help keep you organized. Anyone that would come into your office and say, where are you at with the, with your event, you can say, well, here's the charter work, let's go through this. And then you can see exactly what you have. And then the day of the event. Cannot stress that when you have a large committee and a lot of people involved, you've got your caterer, you got your bartenders, we got a lot going on. We got porta potties coming to this one. I mean, there's a lot going on. And stress can be very, very high. I give a pep talk to my committees every time. I had an event that I did at UW at one of the historical buildings, and that whole registration piece is so stressful. And it can take one person to be really stressed out, and the whole thing is a mess. So I give like a real good pep talk, cheer talk. Let's make sure how we're always talking to one another. I really want to make sure that everyone is being respectful, everybody's being respectful of what the other one's doing. Really go through that, because I think sometimes we lose sight when it's what's on us is not going the way we want it to go. Because we have 200 people coming. And I've just known that if you don't kind of really be everybody's cheerleader as the leader, then it can really fall apart. And number one, keep myself in check. No matter what happens, I don't care if the ice thing falls all over the floor and there's water and a mess, I am cool as a cucumber. Because of how I behave is how everyone else is going to behave. And it is very, very stressful. So the day of the event, I can't stress enough, have everybody's role really in check. Everybody knows exactly what they need to be doing, exactly where their items are. We are starting the day before. We are setting all the tables the day before, getting the flower arrangements on. And it's all in the charter work, day of an event. What are we doing that day or that weekend? So we're starting at 8 o'clock on Friday, and our event is at 5:30 on Saturday. I want get enough time so that there is no stress. The committee can come together and it's even fun to dress the tables and everybody's having a good time and they're seeing it evolve into something beautiful. So I can't stress that enough, is make sure you have enough time for it all to go down. And then your timeline for the night of the event is so big. I, again, am lucky I have a marketing person. She literally kind of does our night of the event. She writes it for me for the most part, and literally says, 7 o'clock we're on. She keeps me going on that whole timeline. That person gets 5 minutes to talk, this person gets 8 minutes to talk, that kind of thing. Also, I was really more focusing on getting the event there, but also make sure that it's not too long. People lose interest when it gets too long. People want to especially when everybody knows each other, like this event that I'm about to have, everybody wants to get back to talking with their buddies. Everybody wants to get back into the whole mix of everybody and sharing a glass of wine, and they know that they're there for this fundraiser, but it's also a very social who's who event. All of them are, right? I mean, we've all done something like this. And so we want to make sure that everybody is still having fun. And at the end of our event, we're having some music. Nothing to dance to, but we're having a country western singer. I've never heard him, but I hear he's great. And so that everybody can kind of still socialize with one another until the end of the night. So our program, we're hoping, is only 20 to 30 minutes. And that is it. And that includes finishing out the live auction and the paddle raise. The talking will probably only be 10 to 15 minutes of actually everybody talking. We want to get everybody really hyped up for those. Have an auctioneer. Make sure you have an auctioneer for all those types of things as well, so that you can sell your live auction things and your paddle raise. Make sure if you are with a nonprofit, when I worked for the American Cancer Society and the YMCA, I was board members there, we always had somebody that had been impacted by or been helped by the organization speak. At the YMCA, we had homeless families that we provided after-school care for, transportation to school, all kinds of stuff. And we had the family speak on behalf of what this may have, they had a tragedy in their family and how this helped them through to get on the other side. So then you do your paddle raise. It's crazy how many people will raise their paddle. And a paddle raise also gives the opportunity, if there's something in the live auction or the silent auction that may be just too expensive for your budget that, or I know some of you probably go to multiple events a year, and after a while it gets a bit much. So paddle raise is also something, if they say $50, you can go, okay, I can do that. I don't have to spend $1,000 over here on this boating trip. It also gives people a way to give at a lesser amount if they want, and that way everybody feels that they have contributed. So I always try to do that as well. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, and then clean up. Make sure you clean up. Plan that. After everybody's had wine and entertained and been working for 2 days, then there's cleanup.
Make sure you have enough people to help you.
Yes.
Everybody
very
else disappears and
true.
then you're by yourself.
Yes, very true. Everybody gets, like, oh, I'm done. I did the event. No, but usually everybody
Works like crew, like
yes.
fresh people.
Fresh people. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. This committee that I have, that's 11 ladies in this community, are extremely passionate. They're passionate about cancer. They're passionate about the arts. It's just going to be something very special. So if you guys have any questions, I know.
I have a question. What are you seeing in trends for these gala type fundraising events? More formal, less formal, themed? I mean, there probably are trends or things that have run their course. What are you seeing trend-wise as we're looking forward?
I personally think the galas, like the big fancy get up and dress up galas, are kind of going out. They cost a lot of money. I think, so like this farm to table, that we were able to engage the whole community in donating and being part of it. You don't have to really dress up for this, not to that extent. I think that anything that has been overdone a lot, I am a true believer. I only do one event a year. Pick one thing you're passionate about a year. As a fundraiser, the best way to raise money is to actually sit at a table and talk with somebody and ask them for money. A lot of events take a lot of time, a lot of energy for what you're getting out of them versus if you were to sit down. So I would say all those, like those big galas and, things like that are dress up. I'm not seeing that many. Maybe people agree with me but disagree, but I don't think they're where it's at. I think people are wanting new ways to fundraise. Like, I don't want a golf outing. I'm not saying they're not popular, but if you haven't been doing them for 20 years, where it's a signature one in your community, maybe not do it, do a compound.
Yeah, and maybe look at what the community's saturated in. If we have a great, and we do have a great gala fundraising event, if you've got one that's really good,
Yep.
don't do that same thing, you know.
Exactly.
Look at what the community's saturated, and what it's missing.
Yes,
I'm gonna give away
yes.
my secret sauce here. I am dying to have a bowling fundraising event. I just think it would be super fun for all of us business people to be in the bowling alley and do like a bowling, I mean, do
Yeah.
something that no one else is doing.
Yeah, well, like with the endowment, with this fundraiser that we're doing, the Arts are farmers. That's where we came up with the farm to table. I mean, they're farmers, they got their community to all come to rally together. And that's what's making this one so special. So think of that too, like where are your connections? What are they involved in? And then we're turning a tractor place into a big gala, I mean, a big venue. You know what I mean? I mean, they donated it to us. Johnson Tractor donated this to us. So don't think right away. So when I went in there and I saw the tractors, I was like, are we gonna be racing tonight? That sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and now we're turning it into this great thing, and how generous of them to do this and have their staff move all these tractors and move all this stuff out of the way, and how wonderful is that? So sometimes we don't think, like I couldn't think of it, you know, until we actually got in there. So don't think think outside the box. Don't think immediately, well, that's not like I don't mean this necessarily country club, but we all usually do country clubs. But don't always think you have to have some kind of venue that is known for events. We can mix it up. And I think those times, those events, people are more curious about. Like, how are they going to pull that off? You know, well, I'll let you know. We'll see what happens.
I'm gonna call you the day after and say.
Yeah, we'd be like, I have no doubt with the committee that I have that this will not be a fabulous event. But I just don't think, I think as a fundraiser, a philanthropist, it is key to be having conversations with people. Always remember that. Like, it is always easier to just say, you know, hey, will you join me? And if you've done your homework, you know what their capacity is. You know. Now you got to find the people that are passionate about what you're fundraising for. You know. Now you got to find what people are passionate about. What's going to make them open their wallet. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but it's the truth. Like how, and then be able to show them the impact of their giving. Because that's the biggest thing. Like, I can't wait till this room is completely done and we can share with them, look what your money is doing for this community. Because we don't have this here. So always think of that too. Like, where are the gaps? You know, where's the gaps in what we have here in Rock County? You know, when you get involved in something, even if you're involved as a volunteer on a committee, where are the gaps? And what we need here.
Post-event, like what kind of formative or summative reviews do you do to look at, well, I guess it's more summative, like looking at everything that happened, feedback from volunteers who are part of it, anybody who gives you feedback, how do you compile all of that together and then use that for future planning?
So we are hoping that this will be an annual event. So we will have 2 post-committee meetings. That's on our timeline. That's a great question. That is on our chart of work and on our timeline to make sure that we're going back and saying, what did we do well and what did we do wrong? And another thing, do not forget to do thank yous. Like, lots of thank yous. Gush if you have to. And how much you appreciate their involvement. Like on my thank you, my formal SSM letters, you will more than likely find a personal note from me. Like, I met you, it was a pleasure, and I'll think of something we said that night, and I'll put it in my little personal note. Make it personal so that they know it's coming from you too. Now, this room, this Hope Blooms that we have a donor wall. So anybody that has given money to this will also be recognized on the wall, and it will say that in the letter, that their name, unless they ask to be anonymous, there have been quite a few that want to be anonymous, but we need to let our donor, our patients and our families know that this money was donated, and that's how SSM can give you the things that you're receiving today. So we have 4 cosmetologists in the area that have donated, that are going to donate their time to cut wigs, to style them, things like that. So if there's not one in the shop or in the salon that they like, they can look through catalogs and they can buy them, and then the foundation will pay for them. So, but make sure you're letting people know the impact of their gift. Because then, if they know you're a good steward of their money, they will continue to give to you. Nobody wants to give money that they don't feel that it's been really made an impact on the community. So I really, really focus on that in the end. And then start planning for your next year. What do we need to get? What do we need to do different next year? What really did not work? And usually, number one thing that doesn't work, just out of all the events I've done over the years, it's that registration piece. It's that line that's going out the door and everybody's getting antsy because they want to get in and get with their friends. So have all that information in the computer beforehand, and it'll go really smooth. It will go really smooth. And have enough people. I have 4 people doing registration at this event. So that's
You
about all I
can
do.
give a 2-minute warning, you can have 2 more minutes of done before we follow up.
Like she said, I think the gala fundraisers are dying out, really.
Yes.
But you talk about venues, and I can remember years ago, we did an annual dinner, and they changed the location, and I didn't go, but they heard attendance went up because it was something different. And they were doing that for a year. Then they went to another location. So a lot of times the venue might sell the event too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's happening at Johnson Tractor this time. Everybody's like, how are they gonna do this? How are they gonna pull this off? We're gonna surprise everybody. It's gonna be fabulous, and I can't wait. But I also can't wait for it to be over. You know, by this time we're running just a few weeks now, and like all the things need to be done. Very stressful. I work every day now at some level. But anyways, I'm happy to share anything if you guys ever, need something or suggest something. I'm always happy. I'm not always right by any means, but I've been doing this a few years, and not only as a director, but as a volunteer, many times, as the committee member. Make sure you're really good with those committee members. They'll do anything for you. All right, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. It was fun. Thank you.